Welcome back to Aladdin's Global Adventure. Today we're taking a deep dive into a company, a liquor company, that's worth, get this, over $300 billion.
300 billion.
Yeah. But you know what? A lot of people, especially outside of China, have never even heard of it.
That's right.
It's Moutai.
Moutai.
So for everyone listening, Moutai is a Chinese liquor. It's what's called baijiu. That's B-A-I-J-I-U.
Right.
And it's a pretty potent spirit. And today we're going to unpack how this company's story is like completely intertwined with China's rise to global, superpower status.
It's really a fascinating journey. We're talking centuries of history, a product that's totally unique, and a company that really mirrors China's own evolution on the world stage.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's rewind the clock a bit. How far back does this Moutai story actually go?
Well, Moutai's roots go all the way back to 1862.
Wow, that's...
I know, right? Way before the Communist Party even came into power.
Right.
So that longevity really speaks to its enduring appeal. And, the company is really rooted in a specific region of China. It's got this unique climate, a specific water source, and these elements are like absolutely essential to creating Moutai's distinctive flavor.
So it's kind of like, how French wines are like really tied to their terroir, that specific environment where the grapes are grown.
Exactly. You can't just replicate that anywhere else.
Right.
And that's, a major part of Moutai's brand and its value. The production process has been honed over centuries, relying on traditional techniques that are passed down, generation after generation. It's really more than just a drink. It's a heritage.
Wow. Okay, so here's where things get even more interesting. Moutai and the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah.
At first glance, that seems like an unlikely pairing. How did that relationship develop?
It's pretty fascinating. During the Chinese Revolution, Moutai became really deeply embedded in the culture of the Communist Party. It evolved into a symbol of national pride. It kind of represented China's resilience and its unique cultural heritage.
So it became more than just a drink. It took on like a symbolic weight.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. Moutai became to China what champagne is to France. It was like present at all the important meetings, state dinners. It was even given as a diplomatic gift to foreign dignitaries.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
China was really reemerging on the world stage during that time, and they needed symbols, things that projected strength and cultural identity. Moutai kind of fit that bill perfectly.
Right. And using Moutai in those diplomatic settings, that was a really strategic move. It wasn't just about, sharing a drink. It was a way to share Chinese culture and history with the world.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what's called soft power, using cultural elements to build relationships and influence on the international stage. It's subtle, but it's a really effective form of diplomacy.
Absolutely. And Moutai was like a key player in that strategy. And as China's economic power grew, so did Moutai's fortunes. It became really closely tied with the nation's economic narrative.
Okay, so how did Moutai navigate that economic boom? Did they ramp up production to meet that growing demand? Like, how did their strategy evolve?
Well, Moutai took a very I guess you could say calculated approach. Remember, production is limited by that connection to that specific region and their traditional methods. So while demand was surging, Moutai didn't just flood the market. They maintained a really careful balance between supply and demand.
Interesting. So it sounds like they were playing the long game, prioritizing exclusivity and prestige over mass production.
That's a great way to put it. And this approach really helped shape Moutai's image as a luxury good, and that perception was further strengthened by their unique pricing strategy.
Pricing strategy. Now, tell me more about that. How did they decide on the price of Moutais, especially in such a rapidly changing economic landscape?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Moutai's pricing is actually directly linked to average monthly incomes in China. So this created a built-in demand that fluctuated with the overall economic health of the country.
So the price of Moutai almost became like a reflection of China's rising affluence, almost like an economic indicator in itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's a brilliant strategy if you think about it. This pricing model, combined with the inherent scarcity due to their production process, created this really powerful supply and demand dynamic, and that's what drove Moutai's value sky high.
It's like they found the perfect formula, a product with deep cultural roots, a limited supply, and a pricing strategy that resonated with a nation on the rise. It's like a recipe for success.
It really is. And That success didn't go unnoticed. Moutai's growing influence and its close ties to the Communist Party put it right at the heart of China's ambitions, both domestically and on the global stage. You're absolutely right. Moutai's story, it really became inseparable from China's whole narrative of economic growth and global aspirations. And as China's ambitions grew, so did Moutai's. They weren't just content with being, the top dog in China. They set their sights on the global stage.
That's ambitious. But let's be real for a second.
Yeah.
Baijiu, it's an acquired taste, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How did Moutai think they were going to win over a global audience? People who might not be familiar with that unique flavor profile. Did they, change the product at all?
It's interesting. They actually chose not to mess with that traditional recipe or those production methods. They decided to focus on a different kind of adaptation, like educating the world about, what makes Moutai so special. Their story became about heritage, craftsmanship, and that cultural significance.
So instead of changing the product to fit the market, they decided to change the market's perception of the product. That's pretty bold.
It was. They were basically saying, like, this is who we are. This is our story. Come and experience it. They were tapping into this growing global appreciation for authentic, artisanal products, things that have a strong sense of place and history.
I get that. Consumers are definitely, seeking out unique experiences, things that go beyond just, mass production. But surely they ran into some cultural barriers, right? Baijiu it's pretty different from what a lot of people are used to.
Oh, for sure. Baijiu, that strong aroma, the high alcohol content, that can be quite a shock to the system for people who aren't familiar with it. And let's not forget about the rituals, the etiquette around drinking Moutai in China. That stuff doesn't always translate easily to other cultures.
That's like you're not just introducing a new drink. You're introducing a whole cultural experience. So how did they deal with that challenge?
Well, Moutai really understood that nuance, and they changed their marketing strategy accordingly. They didn't go for the hard sell. They focused on creating immersive experiences, hosting tastings, partnering with chefs to showcase Moutai's versatility in, food pairings, and they even worked with mixologists to, develop new and exciting ways to enjoy the spirit.
It sounds like they took a really strategic and multifaceted approach to global expansion.
Yeah.
Not just, marketing a product, but building a whole brand.
Exactly. They knew that building a global brand takes time, especially when you've got something as unique as baijiu. It's about cultivating an understanding and appreciation, not just pushing sales.
Right, right. Okay, so this all sounds pretty promising, but it's a tough market out there. How did Moutai position itself against those, big global brands in the spirits market?
Oh, it was a real David versus Goliath situation. But Moutai had a secret weapon, a compelling story. They really leaned into that heritage, that connection to China's rise, and the meticulous craftsmanship behind every single bottle.
So they used that unique narrative to stand out.
Exactly. You see, it's not just about the liquid in the bottle, it's about the story behind it. That's what connects with people, especially in the luxury market.
It really is fascinating how Moutai's story is so connected to China's journey on the world stage. It's almost like they're carrying the weight of national aspirations on their shoulders.
There's definitely some truth to that. Moutai's success or failure on the global stage, it's seen as a reflection of China's own global ambitions. That's a lot of pressure, but it's also a huge opportunity.
So what do you think, what does the future hold for Moutai? Will they achieve that global recognition that they're, working so hard for?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. They definitely have the ambition, the resources, and, a captivating product with a really interesting story.
But is that enough? What kind of challenges do you think they might face going forward?
Oh, there are some big ones. Overcoming those cultural differences, establishing a strong brand presence in new markets, competing against those really well-established global brands. Those are just a few of the hurdles they'll have to overcome.
It sounds like a massive undertaking. But Moutai has already shown a remarkable resilience and adaptability throughout their history.
And that's what makes their journey so interesting, right? They've navigated a revolution, economic transformation, and now they're tackling globalization. What's really cool is that their story isn't just about business. It's like a window into understanding modern China itself.
I'm starting to get that. Yeah, the success of a liquor company can be like a barometer of a nation's global standing. It's a much deeper story than I initially realized.
It goes even deeper than that. Moutai's story also highlights the power of strategic branding and the importance of adapting to a changing world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. We've talked about ancient distilleries, diplomatic tables, the global marketplace. It's clear that Moutai is more than just a drink. It's a cultural icon, an economic force, and a symbol of China's global ambitions.
You've summed it up perfectly, but there's one more really important part of Mutei's story that we need to look at.
Oh, I'm all ears. What else is there?
Well, remember how we were talking about Mutai's limited production capacity, how it's tied to that specific geographic location?
Yeah.
Well, that factor plays a huge role in shaping not just their pricing strategy, but also their relationship with the Chinese government.
Now, I'm really curious. How does geography tie into government relations? I'm really curious. How does geography tie into government relations?
Well, you see, since Mutai's production is so closely tied to that one specific region, it means the government has a real stake
Yeah.
in protecting that region.
Right.
Moutai, it's viewed as a national treasure, like a symbol of China's heritage and economic success.
So it's not just about, looking out for a company. It's about protecting a cultural and an economic asset.
Exactly. And that translates into, real support. The government, they've actually implemented policies to protect the environment around Mutei's production facilities, making sure the water source stays clean, all of that. They also actively promote the brand, both inside China and internationally.
So Moutai kind of benefits from this unique symbiotic relationship with the government.
That's a great way to put it. This close relationship, it's really helped Mutei's stability and growth. It also gives the company a level of influence that few other businesses in China have.
Wow, it sounds like a pretty powerful position to be in, especially for a company with, global ambitions.
And that brings us to the heart of the matter. Mutei's aspirations on the world stage, they're not just about selling a product. They're intertwined with China's own, ambitions to be seen as this global economic and cultural powerhouse.
So Moutai is like carrying the weight of national pride on his shoulders.
There's definitely an element of that. If Moutai succeeds in becoming this globally recognized luxury brand, it would be a huge symbolic win for China. It would challenge those existing perceptions of Chinese products and brands.
It's a fascinating dynamic. We often talk about, economic globalization, but this is a case where cultural globalization is also at play.
And the stakes are high. If Moutai fails to connect with a global audience, it could be seen as a setback for China's own, soft power ambitions.
So it's much bigger than just a company trying to sell something overseas. It's a story about national identity, global ambition, and the complex interplay of culture and economics.
You nailed it, and that's what makes Moutai's journey so captivating. It's like a microcosm of China's own journey in a lot of ways.
This has been a truly insightful deep dive. We've gone through Moutai's long history, that unique production process, their intricate relationship with the Chinese government, and their ambitious plans for global, domination.
It's a story full of twists and turns, and the ending, well, it hasn't been written yet. Will Moutai actually become this global brand like champagne or scotch, or will those unique cultural ties keep it, a more niche product? Only time will tell.
Well, listeners, we've given you a lot to think about. So as you enjoy your next sip of whatever spirit you fancy, think about those complex forces that shape our world, from ancient traditions to economic power to global ambition. That's the beauty of a deep dive. It's not just about, learning facts. It's about understanding how interconnected our world really is. Until next time, keep exploring.